It's very important for us to continue to spotlight our authors and those that are spoken word artists. But it's equally important to have conversations about what does it mean when we show up as an author? What does it mean, and how can we? Number one, why did we write our book? If it was more than just a bucket list exercise that we can say check, did that, got the T-shirt, but why did we want to become an author? Why was it so important for us to pin our message? What kind of influence do we want to have? What kind of impact do we want to have? And ultimately, is this potentially a revenue stream for us? So you will see me come on from time to time to give some tips and tools as we navigate this author lane. I may be joined by my co-host and business partner, Miss Barbara Beckley, but we want to just get started right now. And I want to say a special thank you to those who are on our E360 TV viewing audience. Thank you for joining us again for another edition of Power of the Pen. And to those of you who are watching on Facebook, Roku, as well as Apple TV and Samsung TV, welcome to Power of the Pen.
F. Scott Fitzgerald stated, "Don't write because you want to say something. Write because you have something to say." There are thousands of people waiting to read your book and hear your message. Be a guest on the Power of the Pen TV series. To complete your application and schedule your interview, call 404-618-2824 today. The world is waiting for you.
I am LaWanna Bradford with the Bradford Group, as well as the Bradford Group Consulting. I am also a international best-selling author, speaker, teacher, influencer, and I love hosting this show. Why? Because it allows me to spotlight authors and their brilliant works to individuals around the world. But it also gives me the opportunity to bring some tips and tools on how you can expand your reach and your influence as an author. Today, I will be talking about repurposing your content, 3 steps to increase your impact, influence, and income. And Barbara Beckley and I centered our conversation around understanding, number one, how do you show up on stage, and then number 2, how do you maximize your reach? And so today we are going to talk about repurposing your content, 3 keys to increase your impact, your influence, and your income. Again, 3 keys to increase your impact, influence, and income when it comes to repurposing your content. So let's sit in that for a moment. You've written your book. You're feeling really good. Maybe it's your first book. Maybe it's a series of books that you've written. But you find that you're stuck. You have this message, and you're hoping that somehow people discover you on Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble, wherever your book may reside, or that perhaps they'll find you at a local book fair so that they can buy your book. But you're really scratching your head because you're thinking, how can I have more reach? How can I have more influence? How can I have more impact in this message? So this particular training is for those of you that are asking these questions. What can you do? Are you doing the right things? So I'm going to use a simple example for the repurposing. And the repurposing component is your book. How do you repurpose now the message of your book? And I'm going to break it into 3 categories. We're going to talk about your book as it relates to the impact that you want to have, your book as it relates to the influence you want to have, and your book as it relates to the income that you want to have. Okay? Hope that sounds fair. So get out your pen and paper or your tablet, whatever device, and get ready to take some notes. I hope I leave you with a few ahas and some nuggets so that you can say, let me go back and revisit. Did I in fact do these things? How can I leverage these things to, again, optimize my reach, my impact, my influence, and my income? So as I preface this by saying, you may be a new author, may have a series of books. You may not have written for a while. And, just like we can have an open house for our business, or a relaunch of our business. You can have a relaunch of your book, a new book launch. Something to think about. That's a little freebie on the side. So let's talk about what do we mean by repurposing. What I mean when I'm saying repurpose, it's taking that central message, and once you tease that out and you make sure that it's very clear, then we can go into what we mean by your impact. And I want to welcome to the show my business partner and co-founder, the amazing Queen Diamond and multi-award-winning best-selling author, Miss Barbara Beckley. How's it going, Barbara?
It's going. Thank you again. Always a pleasure being a welcoming co-host with you.
I was just giving them an intro of where we've been so far, and we're just now talking about creating that impact. But again, first teasing out what's that central message. So whether it was a nonfiction book or fiction book, self-help book, whatever it is, there is a central message. If it's a fictional book, there is a plot. So again, what is that central theme, that tie that binds all of it together? Now, before we go into now what you do with that, I want to turn it over to Barbara, because one of the things that Barbara talks about is your purpose, passion, and drive. And we often think about what that means to us, the individual, and how we're showing up in the world. But guess what? Those exact same principles apply to your written work. So what is the purpose of that book, right? That thread, right? And when you have that purpose, it's typically wrapped into some sort of passion, which then you have the drive, that momentum to move forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Barbara just to kind of take that model and apply it to the book before we get into step number one. Barbara.
Yeah. So like LaWanna, thank you, LaWanna. So like LaWanna said, it has to connect. I always tell people when you're putting something together, be it your book, be it a presentation, what have you, you want to make sure that, okay, what's the purpose of it? Somebody should be able to say in maybe 2 or 3 words within your book what that purpose is. And then they should feel and know the passion of it, because you're putting information in just to get them their attention for that purpose. And then the drive is basically the stories. I mean, the stories and the concept that you're teaching them. I mean, it depends on what kind of book it is. But a lot of times, even if you just got a story in your book and you don't put principles at the end, somewhere that story should tie into what that purpose and passion is. So that kind of gives you that like checklist in the sense, in my head, of when you're writing anything, that if you have those 3 things that you're thinking about, then you're on the right track. Because now if you're thinking of that and you're making sure you're putting that in your book, then others will be on that same journey with you and say, oh, okay, this is where we're going. And okay, this suits for me. This helps me.
I love that. And that was well painted. And I want to just pause right there. Now, what I just showed you, remember the topic of this is repurposing your content. Barbara's business, one of her coaching platforms, is helping people to understand their PPD, their purpose, passion, and drive. What was she just able to do? Because she has depth and breadth in that knowledge, she can repurpose the education, the training, and now apply it to authors in their books. Same principle. Instead of self-development, it's now how do I now develop this message? Springboard it, right, Barbara?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so step number one. Step number one is we're going to, again, focus on the 3. First, impact, influence, and income. And we're going to give you one step for each. And we're going to use your book, your message in your book, as the example. Okay, so your message in your book is that baseline example for impact, influence, and income. Now, keep in mind, when you attend our mini classes and master classes, we go really deep into all of these. So, for example, this one that I'm teasing out for impact, there's actually 8 steps. But we only have a short amount of time here, so we're going to give you one of the 8. So with impact, you think about your message, you want to be able to, well, let's first say, what is impact? Let's make sure we're all on the same definition. Your impact is when you show up with a bang. Okay, you show up with a bang. You make such a noise that it gets someone's attention, right? It creates an echo. It creates this ripple, right? So if a boulder hits the water, it's made an impact, but then there's a resonating effect. So with your message, what kind of impact are you making? I want you to ask yourself that question. What kind of impact are you making? And I'm going to put it in here. Key number one, if you say, well, I don't know. Are you grabbing the attention of the reader? So that's the thing you want to do. That is the first thing, is you want to grab the attention of the reader. Sometimes we get a little arrogant in our message and we think that if we put it between, pages, that everybody should be interested. Everyone should care. Everyone should run to Barnes and Noble or Amazon and buy our book and be thrilled about what we wrote. Really? Why? So until you can understand that why, then you're unable to take that, again, that central thread, that message, tie it on the end with a hook, which is that attention grabber. So what's the hook? I'll give you an example. We'll use one of Barbara's chapters that she's done in a collaborative book around PPD, and I'm going to kick it back to Barbara so she can go a little deep with you. So she's in a book, 31 Ways of Influence. All these stories from women that's talking about, it may be life lessons of overcoming, everything from business to relationships. Barbara's particular content is around PPD. That's great. It's in this book. Why should I care and why should I want to read it? So Barbara, what was your hook that you used to grab the reader's attention from the beginning?
I'm trying to think just off top of my head here, but I said to some, do you understand your purpose? Really, do you understand your purpose? And I said it's something like that kind of effect. So I asked a question to make people think and really resonate with, okay, yeah, well, do I understand my purpose? So I wanted to have them thinking, so I wanted to grab their attention that way.
And that is a very simple way that you can grab, again, how you've created, you want to create that impact. How do you grab that attention? And sometimes it's structuring, this is after this book has been written, it's structuring a question that's going to resonate with your intended audience. So if I know that I've got messages, as Barbara does, on purpose, then I'm going to want to fish in the waters where people who may be in the middle of transitioning in life in some way, they're changing, maybe they're changing jobs or careers, or they're thinking about getting into a business, or maybe they've recently been divorced and now their life looks a little different and they're trying to reframe and understand, well, what's the meaning of all of this? What's my purpose? Well, if she's asked that question, I'm going to lean in a little bit, right, Barbara?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just to add to that real quickly, with grabbing attention impact, I always think of, because I always have pictures in my mind when I see words. It's just something that I've been doing since I was younger. It's a different way of doing things for me, but it helps me because I'm thinking when I see impact, the word impact, you know how when you see a car and if they collide into two, like, that's an impact. I mean, it's loud, it's being destructive, but see, I mean, not to put it in a negative way, but I'm just looking at it's colliding. It's just a strong effect. And everybody's like turns to it because it's just that impact that happened. The same thing I'm thinking when you're trying to reach people. You have to have that, like, real quick, fast. People have to hear it. They got to look. They got to see. They got to say, wow. And sometimes, even if it's not for them at the time, you still got their attention because it was something that was a heavy, heavy impact on there.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Is like you said, that car impact. Your back can be to the accident scene, but you hear it, and what do you instantly do? You turn, right? What was that? And so that's what you want to do. You want to show up in such a way that it's so loud that everyone turns. Now you may think, well, LaWanna, Barbara, that's fun, but I don't know. I don't know if my message is that impactful. Well, if you don't know, how am I going to know? You have to know and believe in your own story, in your own message, in your own book. If you can't show up for yourself in such a bold way, your message may end up falling a little flat. Or you may be in the position where you hope that someone else helps you to carry your own water. I'm going to say that again. You may put yourself in the position where you hope someone helps you carry your own water. Right? I hope this collaborator does a whole bunch of promoting. I hope someone posts this book on their website. I just want someone else to do it for me. You got to be sold out for your own message, whatever it is, whatever you wrote. Again, whether it's from entertainment to inspiration to education to providing hope, whatever you're writing about, you have to. It first has to have impact with you in order for the impact to resonate outwardly.
You hit it right on the head, LaWanna. I mean, when you ask that question, well, if you don't know, then how do we know? But if it doesn't resonate with yourself, like she said, and it doesn't create the impact in you, yeah, you are going to have a struggle. We're just putting it out here. You're going to have a challenge with that. Because if you're having your own struggle on figuring out how to grab attention to something that you believe in, then you need to go back to the drawing board and start just rethinking of what's really what you're trying to say here. Because that's not so much of saying, oh, forget it. I put my hands up in the air. Forget, I'm not going to do this. It's not saying that. It's just saying, let me go back and take a step back and see what really I need to tweak to make sure that I'm hitting home on what I really believe in, what I'm trying to put in this book.
Exactly. So again, you already have your book. Your book's done. So we're speaking to those that have written your book. Now, this is how do you repurpose the content? Book is done. Launch party is complete. It's available for sale. How do you repurpose this content? And the first thing is you need certain steps in place. You have to be able to, as we said, grab that attention. What is that impact? Second thing, as we talk about influence, what is it that you ultimately want to see happen? Right? Let's define influence. When you are influencing something, you're causing something to change. Okay, when you are influencing, when you're imparting, when you're impressing, it creates a change. So that change may be in how I think, how I show up, the actions I take, the words I speak. Some shift has happened because of this, again, this thread, this key message that you've imparted to the world. So what is that first before I give you the step? Again, there's some homework exercises you have to do before you get to actually implementing the step. So what influence do you want to have? Meaning, what change do you want to see occur? And then to whom do you want the change to occur? So what and who has to be identified very clearly. Again, if you don't, you're in the hope methodology, bandwagon. I hope, wishing, hoping, praying that it will just all come together. So again, we are looking at how can you create a way to repurpose that material. So step number 2, Once you know what it is that you want to cause influence, what change you want to happen, and you know who you want that change to be for, the key step now is leveraging third party. This is a critical piece that I honestly, Barbara, I'm scratching my head wondering why so many people don't use this. And what I mean by leveraging third party is, let's say you're talking about, let's say your book is dealing with women and in entrepreneurship, and it's a book on how to become an entrepreneur. But now your book is done. Now you want to repurpose the content, right? To create impact, to create influence. Well, if I want to create influence and I want to leverage third party, that third party could be the environment, what's currently happening in and around the world. So we know with the pandemic, we had more women going into the entrepreneurial ranks than ever before. It could be, so let's just stop right there. Or it could be, let me not stop there. Or it could be an article that was written on something that further validates the message of your book. Why does this matter? Because it instantly helps to establish more credibility for you. It's not saying you're not a subject matter expert in whatever you wrote. It's not discounting your life experience if you were telling your life story. But when you have that third party echo, it helps to create more influence. So I'll give you an example. If you wrote this book about becoming an entrepreneur, and you see an article that's written about the pandemic and how more women are becoming entrepreneurs, you can reference the article that hopefully you read end to end, give credit to the person who wrote it, give some comments showing your level of expertise, and say, if you love this article and if what I said just resonated with you, you're going to probably enjoy reading this book or this chapter in this book where I address boom, 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 where I agree with A, B, and C, as was echoed here, or where I give the perspective as it relates to women in the US, or the perspective as it relates to African American women, or the perspective as it relates to emerging communities. I hope you're following me. So you can take what's already been written and done and dovetail your work on it. So you're saying, love this, I agree with this. Guess what? I'm kind of saying something the same, similar, but a little different. If you love this, I'd love for you to check out my book. Mm-hmm. And then there's a call to action. And then after you check out my book, would you mind writing me a review? So again, this is a way that you can repurpose that content. But so often, especially authors in collaborative books, you're just so glad you're in that book. Yay! And it stops. And then you go to the next book, and the next book, and the next book, and the next collaborative, and the next collaborative. But you never do anything with what you had, or you go from collaborative to collaborative, telling the exact same story over and over and over and over and over again, which is fine. Because now you can say, look, I was in 10 collaborative books, but if I am doing my due diligence as a reader and I'm looking at it, it's like, well, you're telling the exact same story. It's the same thing. There's nothing changed. Then, I don't know. Do you really want to say I wrote 10 books and I'm saying the exact same thing? I just kind of did a big cut and paste. Or are they very distinct messages around the same subject, around your area of expertise? Barbara.
I'm sorry. You said a lot of gold nuggets there, but the one towards the end part, I was laughing because, saying I'm in all these books that got the same story, same thing. And I'm glad you mentioned, you gave another caveat to that, a little tip. If you are going to use the same story, at least have different concepts coming out of it of what you're learning instead of the same thing. So that makes a lot of sense. But I just want to just detail just quickly on leveraging third-party resources, which like I said, you said a lot that was very mouthful. is that go back when you're thinking of that, like we said, go back to influence. See, again, when I get a word, that powerful word, I have it in my head and I put a picture to it. How are you leveraging third-party resources, the influence, the impact that you want to create, that you're trying to create for people? Either they're going to change, transform, you want some kind of transformation for them in some kind of behavioral way, or something that you want them to learn. So you give them some kind of awareness. So when you're thinking of influence, because a lot of people tell me, well, I want to be influencer. I said, well, what you want to influence? I always say, use me as a test person. What are you trying to influence me with? Or what do you, I might not be the right party, but at least I can hear your passion from that and what you're trying to change. So when you look at third party resources, you got to see, first of all, are they connected with what you're trying to influence too? See, that's another thing. So you got to make sure that, okay, I got this third party. Awesome. I got this article, whoever I pulled from, or a person, whatever, but you need to make sure that it's still connecting again with, I'm going to put it out there, PPD, with the purpose of the whole thing.
Yeah, I love that. We're going to pause right here because I want to give a shout out to our sponsor. But before I do that, I want to show you a video. And this video is about 1 minute, 57 seconds. And it is an example of how we currently, real time, are going to show you the power of repurposing. In fact, let me show you the video of our sponsor first, and then we'll go straight into that.
Good Friday, everyone. Your real worth isn't defined by your net worth. What makes you valuable is how you use what you have been given. All of us have gifts. Make sure you're making the most of yours. Have an amazing Friday.
It is now the bottom of the hour. I'm excited to welcome Nancy Matthews to our program today. Nancy is an author of a book. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it in the carousel for you guys. There it is, The One Philosophy. I want to talk to Nancy not only about the re-release of the book, but also what it's been like for her to share the message with all of you guys. Nancy, great to have you on with us.
Hello, hello, hello. So happy to be here.
Okay, we are back. So here's an example. Again, this is real-time repurposing. Step number 3, when we're talking about increasing our income, using that repurposed content, we want to identify those income streams because there's going to be a lot. And that's another thing that Barbara Beckley and I talk about in our we do a deep dive in our masterclass of about 10 different income streams. And again, we peel back. It's like, okay, now that I know all these streams, now what? Well, all of them may not be relevant for you to do at this time. You may take little pieces. You may only take one, but do that one well and do it consistently. But I always recommend start with that low-hanging fruit. The thing that's not going to stress you out, a thing that's going to be easy. So this example we just did, that was low-hanging fruit. Why? Because we already had the content. I didn't have to call Sammy and say, Sammy, could you do another little PR piece for me? Because we know the doors are going to be open for the on-demand and we want to use your expertise to help drive people to sales. No, I used what I already had, put it on this platform, gave a call to action, let you know the cost, and then let you hear what she had to say, not only about the event, but about her. So there's easy ways to show up and sell, because what you're doing when you're talking about income streams, to those that are listening, these are selling lanes. I'm going to say it again. They are selling lanes. So if you think, oh gosh, I don't want to sell, or selling's a bad word, then you don't want to move your book. Then you don't want to have impact. Then you don't want to have influence. Because all three of those require selling. And as Shay Brown says, selling equals service. So if you kind of change how you're framing what selling means to you, you may show up a little differently. So again, you want to start with low-hanging fruit. So we're going to use our book as an example. And I'm going to turn it over to Barbara. I'm going to pick one low-hanging fruit as far as potential income stream, and that is an ebook. So you have your little chapter. So obviously, ebooks have, depending on what platform they sit on, there are some parameters around it. They have to be so many pages, etc. But let's just take your chapter, and I'm going to turn it over to Barbara to say, how can we take that, make it a little ebook that we can use to ultimately generate income? Barbara.
Yeah, so with the ebook, and I found it's so wonderful when you can find things and say, you know what, I can take something, it don't have to take a lot of work, and it's still powerful. Like they say, I always say to LaWanna that less is more. So with an ebook, you could take that chapter, take those concepts that you have, what's the influence, what's the impact you were trying to make, right? Go back to that, put it in an ebook. An ebook can be 2 to 3 pages. And I'm saying that because, again, in our mind, oh, now I got to create another chapter. Oh, now I got to write another novel or whatever. No, you're pulling out now where you're talking about income streams, because what you're servicing, instead of the selling, you're servicing by pulling out those teachable moments you had, putting it in an ebook, put a cover on it. At the end of that ebook, what do you always want to do? You want to bring them to you and to the next link to access you. And the ebook can cost from, you can price it from $9. I mean, it depends on how you want to price it, but that's an income stream. And there's 2 things going with that. It's giving them it's showing your expertise even more of a concept of influencing them. And then it's giving them more access to you when you link them to wherever you're going to go from that point as far as your funnels. That's a whole nother teaching. But just to let you know that you're working 2 ways here when you're creating that extra income.
Exactly. And you may think, okay, well, I've got this little 3 or 5 page ebook. How much money am I going to make? You may not make much, but if you are able to use it and create an awareness, if you're able to use it, and as Barbara says, it becomes a lead generator for a funnel for maybe some other product or service that you have, then that's where I come in from a strategy standpoint. Then we look at what are the cost models and what will make sense, and then how do you get a return on your investment. Keep in mind, you have already, it's almost like you're positioning yourself to get royalties in a different way for something you already did. Yeah. So an example would be a song. So a royalty, obviously from the sale of the song, but that same song could be cut down to from 3 minutes to 45 seconds and sold to an ad agency, and it becomes a jingle. Mm-hmm. Now that's another revenue stream. Same song. You just have to go back in the studio to record it. So that's, again, repurposing the content. You don't have to go and rewrite it. Maybe you want to add, if it's a certain audience you want to reach, maybe you want to say, well, let me add a few steps at the end of this. Mm-hmm. Because it's, you're not taking it out of an existing collaborative book. Or if you've been in multiple collaborative books. No, we'll save that one for the master class. We'll give you some more tips of the trade, tricks of the trade, some hacks, if you will, when you come to the master class. But again, starting with the low-hanging fruit, as Barbara just said, how easy is that? You already have the manuscript. Now go get a cover design and decide where's it going to reside. Is it going to be in the digital universe? People come to your site, pay, download. Is it a free giveaway, but you're still able to position it as a lead generator for you? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when you come to our classes, when you come to our mini master courses, or you come to our master classes, we go in, we do a deep dive so that you're able to take what we're saying real time and personalize it to you and what you want to do. Because it's easy to know what to do. You can Google stuff all day long, but it's how do I do it? And how do I do it where it makes sense for me and the audience that I'm trying to reach and the impact that I want to have and the influence that I want to have. See, Google doesn't talk back to you. You just have, it's one dimensional. But when you're able to go back and forth with coaches and mentors and consultants to guide you in navigating it, your likelihood to achieve a successful outcome is going to be much stronger than if you're just kind of spinning your wheels. And I want to say one more thing, and then I'm going to turn it over to Barbara to add a little to this. When we're thinking about income, it's really important that you understand all the cost. So if you put forth an effort, let's say your effort is $100 and you make $100, then you didn't make $100, it's net zero profit, okay? So you want to get from, you can make money all day long, but if you're spending a lot on the back end or the front end, then either it's costing you money, it's netting zero, or it's actually earning you a profit. One of those three. And often I hear people say, yay, I just made all this money. Okay, great. Well, how much did you spend to make the money? How many dollars did you spend to earn $1? Mm-hmm. So with the low-hanging fruit, you want to minimize your cost outlay. You want to work smartly. You want to be able to leverage third-party endorsements that are out there. You want to be able to grab attention in a way that's using maybe existing platforms, your existing circle of influence, and determine how can you now start to generate revenue, whether it's the money that comes in even as you're sleeping, whether it's money that's tied to any other kind of activity that you're doing. But the worst thing is to say, wow, at the end of the year, I made $5,000 for my book. That sounds great. But then when we add up everything that you went to, every conference you attended, every training class you attended, and you spent $15,000, well, guess what? You're $10,000 in the red. You lost money. You didn't make money. So there is a financial model when it comes to what you do with your books and having those conversations with yourself, with a strategist, with someone just to help you understand what will that look like. What is your budget when it comes to getting out there and expanding the reach of your message? If you're not willing to invest in your own message, why should someone else? And I know you've invested in that book and getting that book published. And sometimes publishers have a lot of things that come with it. Some publishers say, well, we're publishing a book and then for a solid year, we're doing all this marketing and promotion for you. We're writing all your copy. We're making sure you're in all of these outlets. Well, that comes with a pretty high cost. And you may have that kind of money, and that's great because it's nice to have the experts do all that work for you. But if you don't have that money and you want to go beyond saying, this is a check, I did it, you want to have more impact, want more influence and more income, then it does require a set strategy. And it requires asking yourself the hard questions. And it requires yourself really looking at your price model. Barbara.
Yes, awesome golden nuggets. I just want to add to that because we were talking about the ebook. I want to go back to that real quick and give an example. And I'm going to do, like you said, right, a real-time example. So you, myself, and the wonderful LaWanna Bradford, we've been talking about, the impact, influence, income. Right there, quickly, a wonderful ebook. And the 3 I's to increasing your overall revenue. The 3 I's. Where the I's come from? Impact, influence, and income. See, and then with that, we can take those 3 massage it a little bit more and make 3 to 4 pages about each one. Not giving so of the how, but giving a lot of the what, because you want to lead them into your next income revenue stream. So I'm using an example. If we put $9, and let's just say we sell it, this example, $9.99 for the ebook to find out the 3 I's. If you sold 20, that's almost $200. $200 that you didn't have before you started your ebook. They're probably going to take maybe an hour to do, because you have that information from either what you were teaching or your book. So saying all that, this is where you start thinking of ways and avenues, like LaWanna said, about streaming your cash flow, but also looking at the time involved, because if you spend 6 hours on that ebook, let's just flip it, and you're making just this much on it, then you got to look at the say, okay, wait, somewhere I missed the mark here. Then I'm spending more time than making the money because somewhere I need to leverage something else. But overall, this is just giving you an example of that.
Yes. This has been great. We are about to wrap up. I just want to bring all 3 up again. So when we're looking at repurposing the content, remember you want to establish impact. And how do you do that? Step number 1, grab the attention of the reader. How do you do that? There are many ways to get to Rome. And that's where, if you're not certain, when you go to our mini classes, our master classes, we can shape that for you and help you in those areas. The next thing is leveraging third parties. So again, if you're a writer, I hope you're also a reader, because that's where this third party influence is going to be buried. A lot of it's going to be in the written word that you can use on different platforms, on different social media platforms. But you may also find video links that you can say, oh, if you like this video, you may want to read this. But you need to remember, audiences are different. So if it's a video, then it's typically audiences that want to either hear it or see it more so than read it. Just something to think about. So you're going to have different audience and different ways to position that message for people who want to process it in the different ways. And then the third one is identifying those potential revenue streams or income streams, and always start with the low-hanging fruit, because when you are able to see some successes, or that, yes, I built this and I'm able to actually start moving consistently, it feels good. It's like a way that you're rewarding yourself. And then you go and pick up another one. And then you pick up another one. But you find those that will make the most sense for you. And as I said, just going back to this one alone, grabbing the attention of the reader to create impact, there's actually 8 steps. And this is only one, to help you to understand how do you create impact with your written word. Barbara and I, we can be reached at our respective websites, and I don't know why I have my website on there twice. Let me take that off and change that.
Want to make sure they get to you.
Get to me. Oh, it wasn't. It was right.
Oh, okay.
I have my email. There we go. Put it back up. Yeah, so my email, LaWanna at BradfordGroupMTG.com or BradfordGroupMTG.com, and then Barbara at the Diamond Factor Experience at gmail.com. Again, Diamond Factor Experience at gmail.com. And you can reach her at BarbaraBeckley.com. This has been amazing. Before we go and close out, we want to encourage any of you that would love to be a guest on Power of the Pen. Our guest series will kick off again next month. You have a message, a book that you would like to spotlight. This is the platform to be on. This is it's designed where it's literally a marketing platform. It's designed to talk to you about your book, your why, your intended audience. It's a platform where before you sit in the seat, before you're behind the mic, I've read your entire book cover to cover, because I like to really know who you are, what you wrote, why you wrote about it. And I feel for me that makes a better interview, and it helps me to showcase you to the best of my ability. So if you want to be a part of Power of the Pen for the rest of third quarter and going into fourth quarter, please contact me and we will send you an application so that you can be featured on Power of the Pen. And I'm going to play this before we close out.
Power of the Pen with LaWanna Bradford, expanding the impact and influence of authors from around the world. If you want to change the world, pick up your pen and write, said Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Books are uniquely portable magic. Power of the Pen spotlights authors from around the world. Listen as authors share messages that educate, motivate, inspire, and entertain. Join us each Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern on e360tv.com.
Okay, well, this has been a great Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me this Sunday, Barbara.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you again for having me.
This has been great. You can follow us on all things social media. My handle is there, LaWanna Bradford, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as Instagram, the LaWanna Bradford. You can find Barbara Beckley on all things social media by Barbara Beckley or Diamond Factor Experience. And we look forward to seeing you next week, Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, where we come at you every Sunday for another message of Power of the Pen. Remember that your words matter. Take the power of the pen, make a difference, make an influence, make an impact. And just remember that in life and in business, when your vision intersects with opportunity, success is inevitable. Until next week, be safe, everyone. Bye.